Hello everyone, Mark Radcliffe here, Director of Professional Development for Blended Schools, and I want to give you a quick intro here, a little 10-minute how's the MOOC going to run type video. So let's get started. The MOOC is hosted in Google+, so you are going to need a Google+ account to access the MOOC. You should have got plenty of emails on that already, but if you're not sure, remember the hashtag BSNMOOC. Google Plus or Twitter, just post it out there and ask, how do I get to the MOOC? And somebody will answer you at some point. So the MOOC is hosted within a Google Plus community. Again, you got emails on that, but let's take a look at what the community will look like. This is very basic intro to it. What's going to happen is every week at the beginning of the week, Dan Lucas, who's developed the content for the MOOC, is going to post a link to the content for that week. So you'll come to the Google Plus community, or you'll get that little notification. You know, Google Plus has that little wand that shows in the top right. Something new has been posted to the community. And we'll also send out some emails and tweets and all of that as well. But you'll come in and you'll see a link, a URL to some content. Let's take a look at what it's going to look like. So you click that link, it's going to take you out to the activity itself. This is what's called a SoftChalk Cloud lesson. Now, you don't need any special software or anything like that. SoftChalk is just the software we use to create it. You don't need that software to consume it or anything like that. It's a straight up link. It's going to work on your computer, on your iPad, on your Google tablet, whatever you got there. It's going to look fine. And you'll see there are several sections to the weekly content. There's Intro, Learn, Curate, Connect, and Create. Start out with Intro. Intro is the introduction, fairly self-evident. It's going to ask you a couple of questions about what you think about the content of the week, just to get the wheels in your head turning a little bit. I'm going to use in week 1 as an example here. It's the state of blended learning. How do we define blended learning? It's somewhat of a general week, right? Some of the other weeks are very more directed, things like objective assessments and so on. This week one's a little bit more general. It's about definitions, research, that kind of thing. And then up here at the top, you can either hit next or you can click learn. It's fairly sequential. It just goes from left to right. Apologies for those of you that are right to left movers. Hopefully the next button will help you out with that. The learn section. Now, this MOOC is an online course, but it's not a teacher-led course. Don't come into the MOOC expecting somebody to be lecturing at you and just taking in knowledge. The Learn section is the closest you're going to get to a teacher-led course. This is direct instructional content that Dan Lucas has created, and it's designed to get you going and give you some information on what his spin on the topic of the week is. You'll see right away, even in the intro section, we're constantly hitting you with that hashtag BSNMOOC. Put that on Google Plus or on Twitter, either way. Keep the conversation going, because that's really what the MOOC's about. I'll talk about that in just a second. So the Learn section, some direct instruction created by Dan Lucas, generally in the form of videos, okay? Need access to YouTube to be able to view these videos. Then depending on the week, you'll find some content which you can read, and you'll also find some content which you can use to check yourself. Formative assessment, right? We're trying to model what we're talking about within the MOOC. But you're constantly being told to respond, disagree with any of the answers, want to go deeper, talk back on Google Plus or Twitter, hashtag BSNMOOC. That's the Learn section. Let's move on to Curate. These last 3 sections here, Curate, Connect, and Create, this is the meat of the course. This is where you're going to be spending your time. If you're a very sequential person, the best way to think about this is to go, I do Curate, I do Connect, I do Create, and then I go back into Curate as much as I have time available within that week. If you're a non-sequential person, think about these as all one activity. Curate is about sharing existing resources. Connect is about connecting with other people within the MOOC. And then Create is about creating new exemplar materials based on the content of that particular week. So let's look at Curate. Curate is where we share resources. Best way to describe this is if I were to look at you and say, week 1 is about the state of blended learning. How do we define blended learning? Share with me one website that you think is relevant to that topic. That's essentially the prompt for Curate. What you share is up to you. It doesn't have to be one website. It can be many websites. It doesn't have to say that blended learning is awesome. It doesn't have to support exactly what Dan was saying in the Learn section. It's your spin and your opinion. So you got find resources and then share them in the Google Plus community. So let's show you a quick example. I found a website. It's a research study on elementary blended learning. I'm an elementary teacher, primary teacher, for those of you not in the US. I go to the community in Google Plus. I put, so that'd be HTTP blah blah. And then I'm going to put hashtag BSN MOOC. Okay? And if I wanted, I could select that, copy it, and just paste it right into a tweet. And then I can have the same conversation on both Twitter and Google+. Some people have asked, are we supposed to use Google or are we supposed to use Twitter? Give us a straight answer on this. This is all about preference. The perfect world would be using both. And the question is why, right? Well, you've probably got a lot of contacts on Twitter already if you're a Twitter user. So by sharing this out on Twitter, it broadens the conversation beyond just the MOOC. You're sort of making your Twitter followers like auxiliary MOOC members, so to speak, maybe without them even knowing it. So you're going to share that out. Then you're going to look yourself on Google Plus and on Twitter, and you'll see we have links in the Curate section that help you with that, and find resources that you think are useful. So think about this in terms of connecting with other people. If you're posting a resource and you want somebody to find that resource and therefore find you, what would you do, right? You would be specific about how you post the resource. This is about elementary blended learning. And somebody else can go, oh, I'm an elementary teacher. I want to learn about elementary blended learning. I'm going to go take a look at that research study. And then they say, you know what, this research study is good. I really agree with the person that posted this resource. Then they can go back to Google Plus or go to Twitter. They can find that person. So for example, here's Tracy Weeks, and they can add them to a circle on Google Plus, or they can follow them on Twitter, whatever's the right technical vocab for that particular tool, because then you're going to refer back to that person in the next section. So that's curate. Connect. Here is where we, for want of a better word, discuss. We're going to discuss the content. But again, think about building peer groups. You found that great resource on the Curate section. You want to discuss that resource. It's about elementary blended teaching. There's going to be people in the MOOC who aren't interested in discussing that, right? But there are people that are. So if you can connect with the right people by connecting with the people who shared the resource in the first place, and they connect to other people, you see what's happening here is you're building a peer group of people that are appropriate to discuss that particular resource. So the question is, how do you discuss? Well, you can discuss in multiple different ways. My recommendation is that you do it in somewhat of an organized way. And a couple of different ways you can do that. In Google Plus, you can create circles, right? You can add people to circles. Fairly easy. So let's say I found somebody, I'm going to go with Addie here, and I want to add them to my circles. I could add them to my MOOC circle, or I could make even an elementary blended learning circle if I wanted, because these circles can exist beyond the MOOC and past the MOOC. So when the MOOC is done, they still exist. Another option would be to go to the Google Plus communities and create a community just for blended learning in the elementary classroom. First thing I would probably do there is search for it. See if there is an existing community. If not, you can create your own. You might make a public community, call it something like BSN MOOC, Elementary Blended Teachers, let's say. And then in turn, I can invite people to join that community and we can have a discussion. Next, that's connect. Next is create. This is the call to action. Now, state of blended learning. How do we define blended learning? The week 1 content. It's a little general. It could probably lead more towards administrators, maybe a little bit than teachers, but it's given us a combined definition, right? Let's say I'm an administrator. I've read a bunch of research here in week 1 in the curate section, and I've connected with some people in the connect section, some other principals, let's say. I'm going to start building a plan for how I'm going to put blended learning into place within my school. I could write up that plan. Could be a simple blog post on BSN Share or another blogging tool. And then I go back to the people that I connected with on Connect, right? and I can discuss it with them, and they can critique it, and I can improve it based on the critique. And then once I've got this exemplar document, be like, hey, this is a great plan of how to roll out blended learning. Now I'm going to put it back to Curate. I'm going to share it as a great resource. Okay? So you see how everything comes together. So Create can be a lot of different things. It could be a blog post with a plan or a lesson plan. You know, let's say we're talking about digital citizenship, which is one of the weeks. You could go to one of your lesson plans next week and add in some digital citizenship content, post that lesson plan to your new peer group and have them critique it, make some changes, blah, 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 so on. You get the idea. It could be a link to some actual content. Let's say we're looking at the objective assessments week and you have what you consider to be a formative assessment that you've created in Quizlet. You could share the link to that assessment directly on Quizlet and say to people, what do you think of my Quizlet activity? Give me some feedback. Let's critique it. Let's make it better. And once it's better, then you can post it under the Curate section. Okay? So that's how the week's going to work. If you have any questions, #BSN MOOC. My name's Mark Radcliffe. I look forward to seeing you online.